Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Dawson. Welcome to Leader Talk. This show is proudly brought to you by Brainiact. Each week we are meeting with incredible leaders from around the world to discuss all things leadership and business insights. Each person coming on this talk show has given up their valuable time for one very clear purpose: to give back to small and medium business owners. Now, do you feel like you're drowning in your business and not quite sure how much longer you can take it? Well, today, Gus, Arianto and I are fortunate to chat to our guest, Tandyo, CEO and founder of Navanti Holdings, an investment company for diversified businesses. Under Ivan's leadership, Navanti now owns over 20 subsidiaries spanning the manufacturing, services and property development sectors. Ivan also created the 11th Space Business Hub, nurturing SMEs and startups across Australia and Indonesia. And Ivan is here today to teach us all how to use the power of resilience and strategic mindset to scale and grow your business. Welcome to the show, Ivan.
Hi, Natalie. Hi, Gus. I'm super grateful to be here. Hi, guys.
Thank you,
Just
Ivan.
very happy to be here. Yeah.
Thank you for donating your valuable time for us.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure, Gus. Anything for you, right?
We are super excited to learn from you, Ivan, but we are first going to ask you the two hardest questions we're going to ask you today. They're our fun questions.
Just shoot it to me. Shoot it.
First one. Now, you're from Melbourne, and we know that Melbourne is known for its vibrant food scene. Tell us,
Yes.
What is your favorite spot to grab a meal in Melbourne?
Hey, Nat, you start with the really difficult questions.
Oh, dear.
We're Melburnian. We get so many great, amazing food here. How do I choose? And well, if I have to nail a few, well, one of them probably there's a cafe. I'm not sure whether you guys been there, but it's very famous. Right at the end of Burke Street Mall in the CBD, there's a cafe called Pellegrini Espresso Bar. It's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, 75 years now this year, and they were known to be one of the first, if not they're the first one to have an espresso machine here in Australia, and they still keep the same vibe right after from then. They still serve like in a family restaurant, like people still shouting from the back kitchen, one lasagna and all that. It's just so beautiful. The ambience, the atmosphere, the coffee, and just the food. My go-to will be the lasagna, the carbonara, and the tiramisu. It's so good.
Now we know why you look like from Italy, no?
I'm probably just dressed up like Italian, but I'm Indonesian. But that's one of my favorite. Have you been?
Yeah, Pellegrini. Yep.
You have.
Natalie, have you been there?
No, I haven't. Look, I've been to Melbourne many times, but there's too many places for me to try. And I love my coffee, so I definitely have to go there.
We have to take her there, Gus.
Yeah.
We have to take her there. You will feel like you're in Italy. Yes. Good timing. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's beautiful.
And Ivan, if we could ask you if you could go back in time and give your younger self just one piece of advice as you're starting off in the business world, what would that advice be?
Oh, that's another difficult question because I'm quite upset looking at myself in the past for all the things that I've done. If you're starting to know about how my background, when I coming from, I was like probably 180 degrees. No one recognized me now anymore. But one thing, but I would say. Just go to school, man. Study is important. Nat, I got expelled from university.
Wow.
Sorry to break this. Maybe Gus didn't tell you, but I came from really quite a bad background. So yeah, I invented the word YOLO in my life. So you only live once. That's how I live. I was a musician more than a businessman. I'm an artist. I write songs. I was part of a band, and I was playing in a band. I pretty much messed up my life when my dad was cracking on me, and but then something changed, right? But if I saw myself, probably number one, yeah. If you're listening to this, I think education is important. I have to pay a huge price by not studying. Then I have to do a lot of study on my own when I start to gear up in my business. Well, and but saying that though, it's always a dilemma to answer your questions like that, a question like that, because I think I regret on nothing. I analyze that my old self really need that experience. I have to go through what I went through in my life to become the person I am right now. So I think you just have to stay. If I turn back the time and I meet my old self, I say, just hang in there. There's a lot of homework in your life. You've pretty much messed up, but the journey will shape you. So one thing, just hang on and don't give up right to the end. I wouldn't change anything that I've been through because I think my old self really need it. It's so important.
Brilliant message. And Ivan, this is where we're now going to lead into, we want to know your story. So I gave a really brief introduction at the beginning. Share with our audience who you are, your career, and your business, please, because we know you've got an incredible story. You've just touched on it, and we all want to know more.
Yes. Well, I'm a husband. I have a beautiful wife. I got two daughters, amazing princesses of mine. Well, I'm a musician, singer, songwriter, entrepreneur, and I am now I founded Navanti Holdings, which is an investment company, and I started doing business right after my I finished all my education era, and yeah, and now we're running multiple different companies. On the Navanti, we have two sides of the business. One is the subsidiary company where we invest into diversified businesses that build an ecosystem. So everything that we invest is very strategic. It's to build captive market around businesses around the captive our captive market, and to build an ecosystem, especially in property. Only a few businesses outside property. But in property, we are end to end. We are a developer. We also own an asset management. We also have two cleaning companies, domestic and commercial. We do building management, etc., etc. And on the other side, we also have, this is the other side of the story. Yeah, so Navanti also own 11 Space. That's where we invest, accelerate, and do a lot of impartation to the startup world. So we invest heavily in the startup world. Mainly, we're focusing on the founder and the entrepreneur because we're more interested in the founder than the business. Our main field of action is in Indonesia. There are more startups that we invest in Indonesia, accelerate Indonesia, and we run one of the biggest Shark Tanks competition in the whole Indonesia. So we would screen around 500 startups every year, and we pick one to three companies and invest into them.
That's
so pretty
incredible.
much that's Navanti. Yeah. Thank you.
500. So 500 meetings involved in that, and then you pick one. Is that how it sounds
Not
like
meetings,
a lot? Sorry.
500 due diligence. That's even worse. Oh yeah. Yeah. We screen quite because just a lot of risk in the startup, and we just need to really and also it comes back to our resources. That's our capacity is just to handle a few. If I can take 100 200 startups a year, probably then it's a bit more, but because we only take a few, and we have to really screen it. Yeah.
Ivan, can you come back a little bit further as
Yes.
as we have a chat prior to this meeting, and you mentioned that your early beginnings in business wasn't flourish the way you wanted, and now to see that you're managing thousands of properties, you managing businesses in multiple countries. Can you just bring back a little bit as the topic that I really want to share is how do you keep yourself there so you can you even said, hey, if you come back to your younger self, your main message will be hang in there. So I have a feeling you are a guy that actually will be hang in there when the time is tough or the time is good. But give us a context, because I think this is something that a lot of business owners in the world right now facing challenges, difficulties. And my question always the same: how do you go home and sleep well and wake up the next day pushing through when you face adversity the way you face adversity? Yeah.
This is my great questions, Gus. I mean, this is my message to my audience. It's all about the process. You will not be there without the process. So your question was asking me on the era of my Harvard. That was my Harvard story. I didn't go to Harvard school, but that was my own Harvard. I learned everything there. I did so it was really tough. That's hence my message to my younger self, like hang in there, because I knew it's going to be tough, and I knew I've been through it. It was tough, man. There's so many times I was going to give up. Let me spill you a little bit of the story. So I started business doing F&B, a really tiny cafe net in downtown CBD, probably 15 square meters. And my dad was kind enough to invest in my seed funding, and then I joined venture with my good friends, and both of our father really probably put us into training and test us. And we bought a cafe, a really tiny cafe, and started from there. I learned to get my hands dirty. To obviously, I get to wake up really early, being like quite spoiled and taking life too easily. That was I learned about working hard. But cut the story short, not just because of that. Then we got cheated by the one who sold the business to us, and they I don't have the time to discuss it right now, because it involves like really layering of they lie by using the manipulating the cost of goods sold and all that stuff. But and cut the story short, I grew from one cafe, and then I hustled my way to having a restaurant in Berg Street, 2 level, quite big, but I got it for free. That's another hilarious and amazing story of how I hustle on the street because of just an old lady really liked me. She gave up the restaurant for me. Yeah, she was doing it only for PR, guys, only for permanent resident. She couldn't take it anymore. She said, this auntie said, Ivan, I can't stand this anymore. I got my PR, take over my restaurant. And I said, all right, take over your restaurant. Okay, I got this for free. I'm seriously. And anyway, cut the story short. This is because that's not the focus. The focus is where I I hustled through until at the end I had 3 restaurants, which the last one I expanded to Melbourne Central, and then I went to shopping centers. And I'm saying most of my F&B journey has been not good. Only one restaurant that I took over from the auntie was profitable, but the rest is quite messy, and I was struggling. But then I still want to grow the business. I grew to Melbourne Central, and I opened an island store in the middle of the food court. That's where this destruction happened, and I couldn't pay even the rent, because the rent was astronomical. It was so expensive. I had to pay close to 150,000 per year for back then. Was 20 years ago, and I was selling my bento box for $7, $8 a bento box. You see, and it was now looking back, I look at myself. What I was thinking? I didn't do my math. How much bento box that I have to sell to even just to pay my rent, right? So, cut the story short, I was bleeding like every month, in the tens of thousands. I got one morning, my actual shop was actually being hoarded. They put hoarding. They put wooden hoarding all around my island store, 360 degrees. All the food court people in all the other premises was looking at me like, what happened? And they put a big signage. My staff was crying and asking, Ivan, what should we do? And they write there, sort out your finances or whatever letter is, to go and see the central management to sort out the issues. Everybody know that I couldn't pay the rent. So I went upstairs. I was begging my life with the property manager. I'm not going to mention her name. I still remember it clearly. But she didn't bug, and she was actually quite upset with me because I didn't let her go from that moment. I said, please help me. No, don't do this to me. And then she was upset, and she stood up and she said, Ivan, stop it. You have to understand that this is business. And then she left me there crying. This is business. That word rings until today. What my understanding about business. This is business. One day I'm going to write a book called This is Business. And that was so important, a very important moment. And cut the story short, I think I told you guys, I borrowed the money. My biggest fear was because I the money that I used to open the new restaurant, this restaurant, was actually the money that I borrow from other people. It wasn't my money, right? And these people, um, because this is life, I wouldn't say uh, they really want back my money, and they're not someone that you can screw about. That just put you understand. They're gonna kill me if I don't do it. So twice I was chased around, I was threatened, I was taken to places, and it was really dark time of my life. But it wasn't his fault. It wasn't their fault, because now that I mature, back then even I learned. Uh, it was me, the one who borrowed the money. It was me, the one who want to grow too fast, and it was me, the one who lost the money. So I have to be accountable. I have to be responsible. He was just lending me the money. Bank doesn't want to lend me the money, so he wanted to lend me the money. So there was just my accountability. 2 years, for the next 2 years, because I begged, I negotiated, and I begged for 2 years. He gave me. He was gracious enough to give me for the next 2 years. I was just working in one of my restaurants. So that restaurant in Melbourne Central went to bankruptcy and closed down. Went through the whole process of liquidation. It was so daunting. And then I sold the other shares in my restaurant, small shares in the other restaurant, and I kept one restaurant, which is the one that I inherited from that auntie, and I use it just to pay back my debt for the next 2 years. I was just working to pay off my debt. Right after it's finished, I sold it. Didn't really make money. Just paid all my debtors, my lenders. Those are my heroes, people who my meat supplier, my vegetable supplier, my seafood, all the suppliers that gave me credit for months just for me to hang in there and survive. And I start paying them back. So I resetted my life from nothing, zero, ground zero again. I have nothing.
Now,
Yeah.
just stop in there. So you hang on there. You are accountable. You're accepting the situations,
And I tried everything.
And you saw everything, but you still have to start from zero again. How do you wake up if you can come back and remember that first day and say, "Okay, I'm I'm starting again after I'm bruised"?
Yes. Gus, sorry, let me reverse back a little bit, because I think the audience really need to hear this. When I was in trouble, it's not that I just stay quiet. I tried everything, Gus. When I was bleeding, tens of thousands of dollars in that shopping center, I tried everything. I tried selling catering even after the shop closed, because you remember back then Melbourne used to close at 6, shopping centers closed. So my trading hour is so short, right? But this is what I did. All the food that I left over, I put it combined, and I cook more food just to do catering. So right after I work from morning until evening, then I start doing catering, delivering every boxes all around Victoria. So I remember I was so desperate. I even sent Melbourne Center's in CBD. I even accepted orders from Mount Waverley, which is way too far. And then ended up I got scolded because the food is cold. Were you so late? Blah blah blah. But I was desperate. I was trying to do everything, sell this, sell that, and all that. But your question, coming back to your question, Gus, how do I reset my life, right? How do I jumpstart again? Number one, I have no. I was placed in a position that I have no options. When you have no options, you just have to push through, right? The only option is the option that I don't want to do, which is to end my life, or to come back to my dad's lab, which was too embarrassing to come back to Indonesia and just, "Daddy, I give up," or whatever. I know he will love me and accept me back then, but then the point number two is what really helped me not to choose that options. My point number two is I found my conviction. I found my purpose in life. I found a vision way before I start doing business. I always have a thinking like everybody, why do we have to born? This life is so fragile. Like you only live like what, 80, 100 years, and what do we do if we just ended up just doing what the mainstream people are doing? You were born and then you grow up, go to school, find a job, build a career, buy a house, get married, have children, and then die. Why, man? You should have an impact. There's a mission. You should find a mission. There should be a mission for all of us while we are here. And I found that before I was doing my business. And I was so inspired with the visions, and I pushed through. Um, Probably that's what's still ringing, Gus, in that every moment I want to give up, I wanted to give up. And I remember, oh yes, I believe God still have something for me, and that vision is real, and I want to go and reach them. Yeah. And if you want to know, I always have an analogy. The, I call it the Chatston analogy. Chatston shopping centers. You know, if you're in Melbourne, Natalie, you have to go to Chatston. It's amazing. It's the biggest one in Australia. And if you need to go to Chatston today from where you are right now, from where I am, I'm in Collins Street right now in my office, and I need to be there by 7 because my mom is celebrating 70 years anniversary, for example, and I need to do the opening speech. If the tram broke or my car breakdowns, if I lost my wallet, will that stop me to go there? Of course not. Of course not. I will find a way, whether I have to run, take Uber, call my friend, ask my friend to help me. It doesn't matter because I need to be there, and I know I need to deliver that message for my precious mom. And I think that's why finding conviction is so important in our life, where people need to find the why, not just what business to do and all that, but why you existed. And that will help you to push through. Probably that's the thing, guys.
It's an amazing message. Can I just ask, you've had you had the 3 restaurants or, the places. How hard was it for you with these dreams to then have to make that decision that you need to sell them? Like, how do you even know? Like, when did you know I can't keep doing this? Like, you're incredibly motivated, incredibly resilient. But how did you identify that time when you go, okay, it's enough, I can only do the one?
Before you answer, Ivan, I think I never think about your question, Natalie, but I think this is actually a true question that is so important, because there's a lot of people, even the people that I know, that they are bleeding, but their ego could be in the place that, oh, if I close this, what happens? Yet you, at the end, reaching that point, you sell it, and then you jumpstart to totally different, from restaurant to properties. So I think that's a good question from Natalie that I never look at it.
Is there, because it's quite hard, that there will be people in your situation, and you're right, Gus, ego does come into things, right? And I'm sure you can confirm that, Ivan. It's like, you don't want to tell your dad, for example, what are the family going to, all those kind of things. But how did you make that decision? I would love to know.
The decisions to go ahead?
To close
To close it. Okay. Number 1, I have no options, Natalie. If only I have the luxury to have the options. Obviously, I was very ashamed of what I've been through. Going through bankruptcy and administration process is very embarrassing and very daunting. If you never experienced that, hopefully not, but you have to face. There was a time where the liquidators will invite all your debtors or your people who lend you money. You have to face them face to face, sit in one table, and that's enough to crush my ego. And face looking at them, one of them crying, one of them is angry, and one of them is shouting, because they know their money is gone, supposedly, because once I liquidate my company, they can't take me, but I need to face them. But I told them one by one, because they are all my heroes. I told them I paid them all at the end, even though legally I don't have to, but because they were my heroes. I like to mention Tina.
Oh, we've just had a glitch. Sorry, we just lost you for a second.
Yeah, I like to mention one of my hero, my meat supplier, Tina. She owns a meat supplier place in Footscray, in a market, very small business. But she sustained me for 6 months. She allowed me to supply meat and pay the invoice 6 months after. What kind of now that I'm savvy enough in the business, that can kill a business. And she did it for me. And I told her, I promise you, with all I have, I will pay you. So every one of them was paid back. And yes, again, facing my dad. My dad is a very successful person. He's an amazing guy, a really a role model. And yeah, I've been failing him all through my life. That's hard. And then let alone other people in my community start to distance from me, and a lot of people talk bad about me. I was quite well known back then, to be like the failures, the guy who have so much dream and yet he's nothing. I had an experience where one time I approached one guy to do business with me, and then because the guy was excited, but the wife wasn't. The wife came to me and then actually confronted me and said, "What are you doing? Asking my business, my husband to do business with you? Don't you know that all friends has been saying that doing business with you will end up in failing, will end up as a failure?" And I said, "Oh, okay." But it's okay, it's all right. I've been through so many of that, and a lot of people look at me with one eye. But answering your questions, I have no other options now. That's the only options to close it down, and I know that's best. Yeah.
Well,
That's
I'm really
probably the most yeah, not trying to fight my ego, not anything. It's just I was that desperate. I was in that end pretty much. Yeah.
And how long before you jumpstart and suddenly start this successful
Oh.
business for 10 years?
um Quick. That was quick, almost immediately. That's a good thing, because back then I was thinking, what should I do again? I remember closing my restaurant with my one of my business partner now. He's my business partner. His name is June. He's an amazing guy. He's been there with me since day one. We closed the door together, and he was working for me back then in my restaurant. He was a high school. He was in uni, right? He was a uni student. But now he become a business partner. And I remember talking to him like, "That's it, June. This is the end." But I have another idea, so I've been sharing idea with him, and and when I didn't have anything in me, I didn't, especially money, and I don't have anyone that I can ask for money. I don't have the face to ask my dad, and I dare not to borrow money again from the experience that I had. So I started to see something. This is a very important thing for, I think, for entrepreneur. It begins from seeing something. I saw something in 2008. And whatever you call it in the world of business, whether you identify the market or you identify an idea or whatever, but you have to have an eye to see. You have to have the diligence to see. You have to train your eyes to observe. You have to care enough to see the things that other people not see. But I had the blessing to see something back then, and I saw it. That was 2008 during the GFC, and I saw a lot of money was hungry, was crying out to get out from to diversify and get out from the Asian country. So especially in Indonesia, they were looking for another place, a safe place to go. The idea began from that simple idea, and I had the experience too, helping other people. A lot of my dad's friends, when they come to Australia, when I was in uni, I accompanied them to look around for property, and I was just to drive around. I was just happy because I'm happy to build relationship with people. That's naturally me. And then, but I saw, I keep seeing a lot of wealthy people from Indonesia wanting to invest into Australia. And I created that because I created a service business, which is an investment solution, an end-to-end investment solution that will give you a peace of mind, a smooth transaction, will guide you through, will prepare everything to move your money from Indonesia to Australia and invest into property. Such a simple model, but I build the whole model, the whole system, how we do it, how we assess them, from how we treat the customer service, what are the products, where we put it, what are the numbers, what are the projection. And I took a license to do it. And then I started, and then bingo, I think perfect timing, perfect moment, perfect model. I went to Indonesia, start doing road shows, cost me nothing. And well, cost me something to hire the place, the office and everything. But I leveraged my dad's network in the beginning. My dad is super well networked in Indonesia. So I asked him to invite Daddy, just invite your friend. I'm not asking for your money. Just invite your friend and to come to my presentation. And they love it because I'm just the risk is small because I invest into property, not into crypto or whatever thing. But and then they believe in me. So there was a huge shift and turnover. Every time I do roadshow, I do it quite regularly back then, almost every quarter. But every time I do it, we'll bring 10, $15 million into Australia. And now we've moved 16 years now, more than half a billion from Indonesia to Australia, and that is a crazy turnaround. But this is what I believe: the turnaround is not because it's a brilliant. Yes, it's a brilliant idea, maybe perfect timing and all that. But I think because I was ready, Nat. I was ready as a person. So the process has took me to where I was, and the stage where I was ready. And that was the moment I had the capacity and I was ready as a person, as a businessman. I have the character, and I think God allows it to happen. Yeah.
Ivan, I have a question for you. So the keyword that you mentioned is network. So you have an eye, you have the eye to see and observe opportunity, obviously in front of you. In your story, through that eye, you also identify how to access that networks. Now, what would happen if, say, I have the eye to see an opportunity in Australia, but I don't have access to that network, which is happened to you as well, because you now owning different type of business, you starting different things. What's your message to our audience that, okay, now I think I have the eye for that. I can observe. How do I enter that network that can make this observation become a reality? In your opinion?
Okay. First and foremost, this is what we teach. This is what we teach to the entrepreneur in our program. So when in the process of building an ideation or business model, you need to start by looking what you have in your hands. Start by seeing what you have in your hands. Back then, if we come back to my story, you can see what I have in my hand was I'm Indonesian who live in Australia. So I have the culture of Indonesia. I understand the Indonesian culture. I have the network from Indonesia, and I can speak the language very well. But at the same time, I'm in Australia. I live long enough to understand how Australia works, and I can be the tour guide. So that itself is an opportunity. So a lot of diaspora like me that has the opportunity to do business with their home country because we are here, and that's what I have in my hand. Number two, what I have in my hand, I thought I have the experience bringing people to invest into property, into different things. And number three, I have a very well networked dad in Indonesia. And I thought, I can start with this. And then I saw the other thing, what I have in my hand was the current situation where the GFC and all that. So we teach them to analyze, because sometimes what you have in your hands is very different. What Natalie have and what you have, Gus, is very different. You might have different knowledge, you might have different access, you have different network, you have different experience, you have different uncle, you have maybe a billionaire aunties, maybe all these things. You have a friend who knows this, who's that. It's all about understanding that, and then coming back to the network.
But am I right to be able to start by seeing what you have in your hand? You have to lower your ego.
Of course.
And I think I
wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Mick, Gus, I think it's so important for entrepreneur to be consistently being the meekness in you, to be humble. To be humble. That's a whole nother topic. How important humbleness is the beginning of teachable. You can't be teachable if you're not humble. People talk about being teachable. You have to, whatever. If you're not humble enough, you're not going to be teachable. And then people talk about change and evolvement. you're not going to be able to change and evolve if you're not teachable. So everything rooted from being humble, humility, and then you can be teachable. By being teachable, you can change and evolve. And yes, with humility, you can't survive on your own. You need network. You need someone that you know. And sometimes that's why you work together with people. And obviously, working with people, wanting to access others people network, you got to scratch their back too. You got to make them happy. You got to add value in their life. A lot of people are just about me. I want to access your network because I want to win this. But no, well, how about you adding into their life? What have you done for them? What are you going to do for them? So I think that's very important. I teach a whole topic about networking. A lot of people ask me, Ivan, how are you? What is your secret juice of networking and all that? Oh, it's amazing.
In this humble, like obviously we've met lots of business owners, even leaders, being humble is not necessarily their characteristic. Are there any tips, like how anyone listening here that's a business owner that is quite egotistical, everyone's got an ego to some degree. Is it something that we can learn to be humble based on your experience?
I think people talk about servant leaderships. Being humble, I think, wow, there's a lot that I can branch through here, Nat. But that's a great question. How to be humble? I don't know whether that's something.
I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying, and I know there'll be listeners going now. I want to be humble. We've listened to your.
And also, Nat, the thing is, when we talk about humble, we are talking about business, and I even say, hey, be humble, because if you're not humble, you are not putting yourself into the growth path.
Correct.
But yet we're talking about business. Humble sounds like religion, religious teaching. Yet the core of success, what I take from Ivan is, hey, if you want to get into a network of your auntie, your friends, or your friends' friends, you have to start by brave enough to even ask. Now, if you don't even have the ability to do that, you don't get somewhere. Am I right to say that?
Let me approach it from the other perspective. Why shouldn't you be humble, right? Why you are prideful? I think this is my analysis. I think people become prideful because of the toxic of power. Because when you achieve success, you start to experience power. You start to experience a different level of power. And like Spider-Man, every power comes with huge responsibility. But then a lot of people don't understand that, and they start to enjoy because it tastes so good to be in a powerful seat, and that's very toxic to me. I think that will think you are the best, you are bigger than anyone, then you should show your strength. Coming to my second point, I think pride comes from insecurity, because you're so insecure, and then another company, I have to show that I'm bigger than them. This is what I should do. And when people, even your staff or people, probably you think they are like in the lower professional status standard. For example, your staff or your employees start telling you something, you get really pissed off because, hey, who are you to talk to me like that? Or you know what I mean? And that's human, I think, Gus. It's very human. You're right. And humbleness is something that you need to be mindful every day, because easily the world will actually take you and lure you towards that, with all the toxic that is spread in the world, especially in the world of marketplace. With all the money that you have, the access that you have. Oh, yes.
Yeah. And staying on that topic, Ivan, business owners, they want to grow quickly, they want to achieve success quickly. They're listening to this and they're going, I want to be like Ivan. They only see that end result. I read an article that you pulled together online, and I just want to quote it. You said, don't grow your business too quickly. Try to avoid racing ahead, and don't get caught up in growing as quickly as possible. Now, The mindset of a business owner, their projections are usually so quick. They just want to get there. They want to achieve success. They want to be proud, etc. Please, can we elaborate on this? Because I was really touched by this, hence I wrote it down.
No, I think it's very important for every businessman and entrepreneur to understand the I call it the rule of capacity. Everybody has their own capacity to receive their blessing at any given time. You can't receive blessing or growth, or you call it success, bigger than your capacity. If we can't hold it, we will lose accountability. We will lose a lot of things, that even the blessing itself will become a curse. People grow, even in a family life, grow too rich too quickly. Suddenly a husband become another monster. Kids, too early to enjoy Ferrari. Look what happened. So because everybody need a capacity to hold something. That's why the process in my life was so important and was so harsh, because I know God placed me into that process because He's planning to give me something huge, big at the end, for me to be able to sustain. And that's a mission that I have to do in the marketplace. How would I be able to penetrate the marketplace? How we have a motto in our company: investment that changed the world. That's our motto. And then in 11 space, we have another motto. We call it to make a difference through entrepreneurships. Now, how we change the world through businesses if we ourselves not successful? So success is ought to be natural for us. And if I don't have the capacity, I'll be a crook. I'll be a bad person. And I think it's so important for us to understand. Even this is fun. This is so fundamental in the rule of growth. Now that the world, especially in the last 10 years ago, the startup world becoming really popular, and people grow through burning. And we, the traditional people, like probably Gus, me, myself, and my parents, we believe in the organic growth, which you expand through the retained capital, not from someone injecting your money and burning and scale up and grow 100 folds within 2 years, right? But now we in our company, we create another model. We call it the hybrid growth. The hybrid growth still accepting the new, because we need to evolve with the new way of doing business. There are investment, there are sovereign fund, there are PE, there are VC, there are investment coming from other investors. But by our model is doing the hybrid growth, mean you can only burn up to a stage. But then before you go to the next stage, you have to prove your concept that you actually turn it around and make it cash flow positive. So for example, if I absorb $1 million for investment, then I put a timeline, I put a KPI, a floodgate, I call it. And then from there, you need to reach it and prove it that you can actually turn it around before you receive another investment to grow to the next stage. So I call it hybrid, because no longer like the traditional way where you retain your profit yearly by year, and after 10 years, then you can grow. That's what we believe. So I think, to me, I think growing too fast, too quickly is so bad because of the capacity. You don't have the capacity. And number two, I think you need a really sharp calculation. In my company now, I put different type of people in my board, people who's conservative enough to hold my horse, because I'm very aggressive, very gutful. Some of my business partners, there are a group of people in our group which is super aggressive like me, just go-getter, visionary, just want to expand. But there are group people who will actually know, man, how about this? They all talk about the negative things. So it's good balance so that you can come up with what we call calculated risk. Calculated risk is about you reflect the risk to our resources. When things go south, you need to do an emergency landing. Can you afford it? Or will that kill you? If that kill you, don't do it. So yeah, probably that's my take.
See, that's interesting because, the mindset of an entrepreneur is that go-getter, really fast, do things quickly, you want to achieve it. You mentioned having someone on the board that, pulls that back. How important
And that's annoying.
Do you think? Yeah. Do you know what? Jared, my husband, is that, and I'm the one that's like, no, let's do it this way. Let's take a step backwards. So I get it. But for those business owners, Ivan, that don't have that are just, on their own. They've got no one pulling them back. What would your advice be to them? Because I know I work well with my husband because we are completely opposite. You've got a board that balances you out, and perhaps you wouldn't be where you are now, I don't know, if you didn't have that balance. What would be your advice to that business owner that's doing it solo and that doesn't have that?
Great question, Nat. Great question. Probably this will add up to another thing that I will tell my old self if I meet myself in the past, right? Find a mentor. Not just find a mentor, but listen to him. Find the right mentor and listen to him. It's so important. Oh my goodness, for entrepreneur to have a mentor, someone that you can trust and mentor you, someone that you would listen. Because this is the thing, that is how I teach about mentorships, right? No mentor, for example, if you're mentoring someone, Gus, no mentor can call themselves mentor unless they approved by the mentee. The one who can call that you're my mentor is the mentee. They're the one who approve it, because if they never listen to you, you'll never be the mentor. So mentor can only be approved by the mentee. So if I'm humble myself and I said, okay, please teach me, you're my mentor, I will learn, but the condition is because I open my heart and I'm ready to learn, ready to be spanked, and ready to change. So I think it's so important to find someone that you can trust, that you can call them mentor. Can you approve that they are your mentor, so they don't waste your time in your life, but they are super crucial. Yeah, super crucial.
And what people, it's funny when we talk about mentors. I have my own mentors for the last 20 years. The same person,
Wow.
right? Graciela. She's my mentor, still mentoring me today. You need someone that
Yep.
has the eye that able to see and observe. And a lot of people said, oh, I can't have, for example, well, I don't want Natalie to become my mentor because Natalie don't even do tennis as good as me. Yet when you look at the tennis player, like world-class tennis player, their mentors is actually less capable in playing tennis than who they are. You look at
Yeah.
Novak being coached by someone that never been in his position ever, but he believed that the mentor's able to see and fix him, and I think this is where your ability to become humble and selecting, hey, I can see that this girl, this guy, this man, this whoever it is, have a detailed eye that can find my weakness, and that's what's
That's right.
important. And yet you are
I
true as
agree.
well. Are we true? Are we right, Nat? We've been engaging with so many business, so many. There's a lot of people don't have mentors and refuse to have
No,
one.
no, they don't.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say, Ivan. How, any advice you have on how you'd find this mentor? Is it, it might be scary.
Yeah, especially my business is so small. I don't have money to pay.
I don't want to be spending it. That's right.
How
I don't
do
want
I
to be spending a lot.
how do
How
I
do
find
I,
free mentors?
how do I approach it? Is it a friend? Is it someone I look up to on LinkedIn? Where, any advice you'd have for them?
Yeah. There are a few things I can advise. This is the thing. If you find a mentor that you don't have to pay, actually you actually finding a gem. You find a diamond, because those who mentor without paying, they have the passion to do it. And nothing beats a passionate mentor. People, my mentor, for example, I have a few mentors in my life, including my dad and all that. But one guy, Jeffrey Rahmat from Indonesia, he he just loved mentoring. He loved sharing life. He just it just loved building people's life, and that's a characteristic. I never pay him, and he's been there like yourself, Gus, more than yeah, I think 20 years, and he's been there, and I watch him from what he does, what he do, and I learn. I remember every time I see him when I was young, because I knew him when I was in uni. Every time I learned something from him, sitting face to face, I would take out my notes net and actually write down what he's saying. So I think number one, you got to find mentor that really have the heart. Number two, you need to know what you need as well. A lot of the mentor is not just about the skill, because at the end of the day, honestly, you can pay someone for skill. If you have a business, you just need someone who's really good at finance. You just pay someone that's good at finance. But you need a thought leader. You need a thought leader. You need someone to have a characteristic, someone who can be a role model, learning about someone's integrity, about the people's heart. That's even more precious than the skill itself. Skill, yes, okay, he's been through that. That's good. But a lot of the time, you can pay into workshop, and you learn it. But mentorship is about shaping life, shaping character, and shaping your hearts as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
So
brilliant
find
piece of
someone you can
advice.
resonate. Thank you.
And it's brilliant advice. And for everyone listening, find yourself a mentor. Like when you think of, the loneliness also of business owners, there's also that having a friendship, someone to say, great job. It's even just that character building. There's so many benefits of having a mentor.
And even when you fall, he will say like, it's okay, do it again. It's okay, do it again. I actually wrote a song that I published in Spotify. It's called Superheroes. That song is actually about the people who's in my life, who've been in my life, everyone that's surrounding my life, including my mentors. Then every time I fail, then they'll say, it's okay, Ivan, you can do it again. Let's do it again.
And one thing that I found as well through my journey as well, we tend to forget that people actually want to help. You will be surprised how many people actually want to help around us when we actually genuinely open up and ask for help.
Yes.
In the past, a lot of people keep saying to me, "Hey, Gus, you ask too many help," and I will always ask for help. I'm just asking for help, and you can understand if you genuinely ask for help to grow yourself. Not, of course, not asking for help to have a free food so you don't have to work. That's not the help we're talking about. But if you sit down and said, show me my blind spot, show me where I should
Gus, you're talking about humility again there.
I was going to say,
a lot of people don't have mentor. Yeah, people don't have mentor because they're not humble enough to admit it. No.
Yeah.
It's all intertwined. If you that's exactly right. First, you've got to be humble enough to ask for help through, to get that mentor.
Yeah, that's right. Totally. Some people just can't see, they can't admit their weaknesses because they're so blinded by their pride.
Yeah. And yet success is infinite, like there's no, and I'm sure, you come back 20 years ago when you have 3 restaurants, you come back now, you're managing thousands of properties, and you will never say it's enough, because from 1,000 there's millions, from millions there's billions, from billions there's probably trillions. And the only way is the humility and humble and the thing to grow.
You mentioned something interesting, Gus. I was just meditating this the last few weeks about gratitude. This is the challenge in the world of business, because we are never enough. People are being trained to be a go-getter, to go to the next stage, to reach the next moon, reach the next stars, go to the next milestone, right? The danger in that is that we forget what we have right now. And when we don't have the gratitude and appreciation, everything will taste bad. And in the reverse, if you have the gratitude of what you have right now, everything will taste better. Everything will taste better. The food that you have, the family that you have, the moment that you have with your friends, just the businesses that you run, the employee that you have, maybe only 2 or 3, but you will cherish them and it feels better. The thing that you need to go and grab more, bigger, grow something, everything become tasteless, and that's bad. That's why some people started to ditch, like, for example, I can't even riding Mercedes-Benz feels nothing, because they want for Bentley, chasing for Bentley or Rolls-Royce, see? But for a lot of people, that means the world, you see, to take a ride in a car like that.
The simple thing as gratitude. Gus and I both big believers of that, aren't we, Gus? Appreciating. It's amazing, that mindset. But Ivan, that's more of a mindset thing, isn't it? Like, how for a business owner that is now struggling, let's go back to where you were, when you were in that really dark time. How difficult is it to get your inner mindset where you're actually finding something that you're grateful for? Was that something that you could even do back then? Or is that something you've just adopted now? Like, could you see yourself finding any light in that darkness when you were, let's use that analogy.
Now, this is funny, but I want to say, because I read it somewhere, it's, how do you practice gratefulness when you are crying on the side of the road versus crying inside a Mercedes Benz?
Oh, that's an interesting one, Gus. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's interesting. It's still a cry, Gus. It's still a cry. So that's why I think challenges doesn't differentiate people's status. Whether you're rich, whether you're still starting, the challenges is there. Challenges is real. Pain is real.
Yes. Hang on. I just want to share something, Ivan. And this is from my coach. And she's a professor in this field. And she said, I remember one day I said to her about this, but my pain will not be comparable to other people's pain that is so big. And she said, wrong, because it's still pain. And that's exactly. So not understanding this, whether you're crying on the side of the street or you're crying inside the Mercedes Benz, it's still painful. It's still painful.
Yes, you're right. It's still painful. But sometimes you just need to see what you have, right? Otherwise, everything will just remain gloomy in the storm. But in every circumstances, I think there's something for you to cherish for. I think in my darkest day back then, I think I was still grateful. I have a beautiful parents, beautiful family, who I know will be my safety net at the end of the day, even though I failed them so many times. And I believe God was there watching for me. I was just crying and praying every night. I was alone here in Australia. I have no sisters, no relatives. I was staying in an apartment. Yeah, well, that's all I do. I can only cry, pray, and read my diary and write my diary and meditate about my life, what happened, and then try to do it again another day. Now, I think the opposite happened when you start achieving success upon success, and then it becomes so dangerous. Then you become so ungrateful to what you have, because you just need a sweeter sweets, I guess. Yeah. And that's bad.
We are so grateful that you stayed motivated and resilient and pushed through everything, because look at the incredible story you now have to share with people and teach people and touch so many lives, especially in business owners, based on what you went through. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome. I think I was allowed to experience this for a purpose. It's for me to share. And this is why I live my life. This is why I do things. This is the why behind everything. And I think it's so important for us to understand who we are, our role as a person, as a businessman, as a partner, as a professional, because by understanding the role, then you understand the priority. You need to able to, we as a businessman, entrepreneur, we need, even as human, we need to understand priority. We can only understand priority when we understand value, the value of the things that and then come the last one. Because of that, then you know how to do the proper budgeting. I think in business, budgeting is so important. This is relevant to people who want to start a business as well, or people who want to grow the business as well, because budget shows your priority. If it's, I always say this, if it's not important, it's not going to be in the budget. If it's important, it's going to be in the budget. So a lot of people will say, oh, Ivan, our company really focus in customer service, for example. Show me your financial and show me the budgets. If you don't put any budget in there, oh, your budget is small, don't tell me that. That's a lie. Just like us as human, oh, my family is everything for me. You never budget time for them. You never spend time with your kids and your family. Don't tell me those lies. They're not important. Everything that is important in life comes in the budget. And we only have limited resources. limited resources. It's all about it. That's why we have to prioritize which one first, which one to do, and all that.
Inspiring words, Ivan. And I'm sure we could keep talking on for a lot longer, but Gus, we run out of time. I'm just going to hand it over to you to wrap up.
Thank you, Ivan, for the last 1 hour. We value your insight. We value your story. Not often we have a story where people are genuinely able to share that they start from something and failed and restart again. I get connected to this story, Natalie, as well. So thank you for your insight. This not in order, obviously, but as you see, I'm taking notes and I put some of the keywords that I like to reshare. So this some of your key insight. Hang in there to all the people out there. Hang in there. Your time will come. Be accountable. Be accountable. Every situation have you and your decision in it. Be accountable, because every situation, bad or good, got you in it and your decision in it. So you have to own it. How do you jumpstart in the case you are failing, or in the case you have to close it, in the case you want to start? Push through and take actions. Find your purpose and visions. Finding your why will help you to push through. Have the eye to see and observe. By this, the opportunity coming your way. I really like this one. Yeah? Have the eye that have the ability to see. Start by seeing what you have in your hand. You want to build networks? Don't underestimate your surrounding. We have to open up. We have to be humble. We have to ask questions. And I also remember someone said to me, you will be surprised that your opportunity is actually no more than 2 or 3 steps from who you know. Now imagine that. Now we know Ivan. Surely 2 contacts from Ivan is someone that we might need. Mm-hmm. But if I don't ask Ivan, well, I will not even reach to that contact. If you're not humble, you are not putting yourself into growth path. Don't grow too quickly, too fast, unless you are ready. Find mentors. We need someone who can show us our blind spot and help us grow. Everything important in life or business comes in the budget. If it's not in the budget, that means it's not important. Ivan, thank you so much for your time. We value your insight.
Thank you so much, Gus. Natalie, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been an incredible hour, Ivan. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. For more information on Leader Talk and for some great resources to help your business grow, check out brainiact.com.au. Bye, everyone.